Now, Tuesday, would you believe it, is Shrove Tuesday, Pancake Day. And as Christians prepare for the start of Lent, there's an opportunity to see a dramatic telling of Matthew's Gospel, and all by candlelight. Actor George Dillon will be performing his Gospel of Matthew by candlelight in Brighton and across Surrey and Sussex throughout Lent. Since its premiere at the Brighton Festival, George has given this performance nearly 150 times in the UK, including 3 runs in Edinburgh and appearances at the Greenbelt Festival, Soul in the City and Pentecost festivals, as well as in Canada, Poland and Bermuda. And he joins me in the studio now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming in. We also must mention you are an award-winning actor on Oscars night as well.
I didn't win an Oscar. But yes.
You didn't win an Oscar, but you have won awards for this performance. Before we talk more about it, I wondered whether we could just hear a short burst of your performance, a sneak preview.
Certainly. This is an extract from the Sermon on the Mount. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray standing in the churches and the streets for people to see, for truly I tell you, they have their reward. But when you pray, go into a private room, shut the door and pray to your Father in secret, and your Father, secretly watching, will reward you. And when you pray, don't prattle on like the Gentiles, for they think the more they say, the more they'll be heard. So don't be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask. But when you pray, pray like this. Father in heaven, may your name be honoured. May your kingdom come. Your will be done here on earth the way that it is in heaven. Give us today strength for what is coming, and forgive us our wrongs as we forgive those who do us wrong. And do not put us to the test, but save us from evil. For if you forgive others their wrongs, your Father will also forgive you. But if you don't forgive others, neither will your Father forgive you your wrongs. Don't judge people, and you won't be judged. For as you judge, so you will be judged. And as you value, so you will be valued. Don't treasure your treasures here on earth, where thieves break in and steal, and moths and rust corrupt and destroy. But treasure your treasures in heaven, where neither thieves break in and steal, nor moths or rust corrupt or destroy. For where your treasure is, there is your heart. No man can serve 2 masters, or he'll hate one and love the other, or cling to one and avoid the other. You cannot serve God and money. So I tell you, don't worry about how you'll live. Oh, what are we going to eat, or what are we going to drink, or what are we going to wear? For even the Gentiles need these, and your Father knows what you need. Think of the birds of the air. How do they live? They don't sow or reap or gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them, and aren't you greater than them? Think of the lilies of the field, how they grow. They don't toil or spin, yet even Solomon in all his glory wasn't dressed like one of these. So if today's grass, which is to be burnt tomorrow, God dresses like this, won't he do so much more for you, you little faiths?
Wow. That was George Dillon with an extract from St Matthew's Gospel. He is taking that on tour, hopefully to a church near you in Sussex, also going a little bit further afield to Surrey in London as well. Wow, George, I've gone a bit shivery just sitting so close to you as you did that. Incredibly powerful stuff. What was it that made you choose St Matthew's Gospel?
Oh, there's several things. I mean, this has been a project that I wanted to do ever since I was a student at university back in the early 80s. And one of the inspirations was Bob Geldof at the Live Aid broadcast. And about 2 years after that, I saw him by chance. I caught sight of him at Euston Station. I was sitting on the station concourse. I happened to be reading the Gospel of Matthew at the time because I was thinking of doing something from the Bible as a show. And I heard a voice shouting, "It's to Africa, Saint Bob!" Hey! And a drunk had spotted Bob Geldof walking across the concourse, and he's a tall man, as I remember, and had his cowboy hat on. He was trying to pull it down over his face to hide himself, and I looked up and I saw him, and I thought, I want to follow you. He's a holy man. I just want to leave my life, get up and go and follow him. And it was a penny drop moment in 2 ways. One was the image of the fishermen who were called, and the other was remembering Geldof's anger at the Live Aid broadcaster. Give us your money. He was righteous in his anger, but anger, of course, isn't exactly the best of emotions to have. So it made sense to me of Jesus in the temple when he's driving out the temple, and actually at various other points in the Gospel of Matthew, because he's quite strident. And this anger, the righteous anger, the anger at humanity, but being human in his anger, made sense to the Gospel of Matthew. And that was one of the first.
There are so many different stories, so many different themes. You picked a bit there from the Sermon on the Mount, the stories that Jesus told. How do you go about, I mean, it's such a big thing to do. How do you mentally prepare for that? How do you sustain that?
Well, I wish there was a profound answer, but there isn't. It's my job. It's what I do.
I mean, it's a feat of memory, sure, but it seems so much more than that. Just the way that you brought that little passage alive.
I think yes. It's probably the most meaningful and profound show that I have done or could do, and that keeps me going. I mean, I've been doing this show now 15 years, but I don't tire of it. It's and the impact it has on audiences is quite unlike anything else I've ever done.
Well, tell me about that. What kind of reaction do you get?
I have to say, I didn't intend this to be preaching to the choir. When I first did it, I thought of it as a show that would have a universal appeal. And the reality is that's not the case. The reality is that the vast majority of people who come to this show are churchgoers. What it tends to do is it shocks them out of their comfort zone and makes them think again and reevaluate and go back and reread, particularly the Gospel of Matthew, because it's quite surprising what is in there. And I think a lot of people, even people who consider themselves Christians and think they know the Bible, often come up to me after the show and say, "Did he really say that?" Yes, he did. My version is a translation from the Greek. It's a direct translation. I've cut and reordered it slightly, but other than that, I've only added one word, which is "oi," when Jesus calls the fisherman. So the impact is, but people do appreciate it, and they go away often very, very moved by it. I mean, of course, the ending is something which touches people very deeply. And
totally appropriate for this time of year as well.
It is the best time of the year to do this show, yeah.
You say you've been doing it for 15 years. When I've interviewed actors before, and they say, "Oh yes, no show is ever the same. Every night is different." But presumably, every retelling for you is different. I mean, is the show very different now than it was 15 years ago?
Yes, very much so. Well, not least because when I first started doing it, I was doing it in theatres and I had video and lights and sound. And then because I was invited to do it in churches by vicars quite often, and I had to say no because, you haven't got a lighting rig and video projection, I did an experiment to do it just by candlelight, totally unplugged, and that I did in the Nightingale Theatre, small theatre in Brighton, 2007, and since then I've been doing it in churches. Every performance is different, every church is different. I mean, I have the glory of because I'm a touring actor, I'm not doing it in the same theatre night after night. I'm doing it at different. I've got 19 different churches on a 20-gig tour.
Does the type of church you do it in make a difference to how you are?
Yes. There are some churches that have a sort of intimacy. In fact, the one which is starting the tour, you mentioned in your intro, actually, nearly 150 performances, and I worked this out the other day, and in fact my 150th performance is next Saturday in St Luke's, Prestonville, and that's going to be, I think, one of the more intimate gigs on the tour.
And in fact the vicar of St Luke's is in the studio with me next Sunday.
Oh, lovely. No,
so he can tell us all about it.
Yes. That will be the night after, yes. And actually his encouragement was one of the things that really sparked off this tour. Was, when I first spoke to him about it about 3-4 years ago, and just recently he was so encouraging that's why I rolled it out to 20 churches. 20
churches. I will read out some of them in a few moments' time. Finally, though, you're giving 25% of ticket sales to local homeless charities. Why?
Last winter, there were a few deaths among the homeless people of Brighton, and one of them in particular, Gareth, who used to sell the big issue outside Waitrose, touched me very deeply. He was a lovely man, very, very positive despite his circumstances. He'd always greet me as brother. And he died about the same week, I think, that David Bowie died. Now, Bowie, obviously, his death affected many people greatly, but when I heard that Gareth died, I cried. It really upset me, and I wanted to do something then, but it was slightly too late to set it up for that year. So this year, I wanted to do something. That's why.
And that's why. So 20 churches in the local area. So St Luke's, Prestonville next Saturday night. Then you're up in Croydon on the Monday at St Matthew's Church. St Mary the Virgin in Horsham, Wednesday the 8th. St Nicholas Church back in Brighton on the Friday the 10th. Then you're in Streatham. Then St Martin's Church in Brighton. Then you're at St Peter's, Kingston on Thames, Saturday the 18th. Then in West Worthing. Then in Staines, Bexhill-on-Sea. And then in Hove, All Saints on Saturday the 8th of April, back in Brighton on the 10th and the 11th, St George's Church, and then St Luke's, Queen's Park, then Henfield on Wednesday the 12th, St Peter's, and then All Saints Church in Hove on Friday the 14th. Tickets are still available if people want to find out more. Have you got a website?
I've got a website, georgedillon.com, all one word, DILLON, georgedillon.com/Matthew, and tickets can be bought via ticketsource.co.uk/Dillon.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for the little bit of the show that you brought us on the Sunday Breakfast Show.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.